Hey friends, this is Dolynny TV. Good morning and welcome to the next edition of the Edmonton Oilers discussions here on the channel as we get set up to talk about, wild card spot that the Edmonton Oilers are waking up to this morning. And guess what? We're waking up to it as well this morning, so that's pretty fantastic. But friends, I'm going to kind of go over some of my views on where we've been, where we are, where we're going, and all of that here in the next little bit. But before we get there, if you are new to Dolynny TV or a returning viewer and haven't hit that subscribe button yet, I would encourage you to do as such, because now that the Oilers have hit that wild card spot, we can officially talk that, there might be some playoff live streams on the horizon. And you know how much fun, for those of you that were in there before, you know how much fun those were last year. I'd love to do it all over again this year. Okay, so friends, let's get to it, shall we? The Edmonton Oilers playoff spot you saw in the thumbnail. The Oilers are in the second wildcard spot, pretty much with a game in hand or more on everybody except for LA, who's got a game in hand on us. The LA Kings at a 29-6 record, 46 points total. The Oilers 20-15-1 with 41 points in total. So again, the race continues to be tight, and I think now the real interesting thing is how close the Oilers can get to number 2 in the Pacific here over the next month or so before the deadline. You look at this here as well. The Oilers 17 regulation wins. That is, overall in these 5 teams, that is good for third, or tie for third with Vegas. The Oilers' home record 11-6-1 is pretty stellar, and as well the away record is a 500. So at the end of the day, the Oilers aren't necessarily the perfect team. We'd love to have lost 4 or 5 games in overtime to this point, and guess what? Then all of a sudden we're right there with LA and almost right there with Vegas, considering games in hand. But the nice part is we got here, right? We got to that second wild card spot when it all seemed just such short few days ago impossible, right? There was a 2-9-1, 5-12-1, and it just seemed like this season has slipped away. The Oilers are showing no signs of being able to turn it around, and it just seemed like it was done. And I mean, as much as everybody will point to that Carolina game prior to Washington 5-0 shutout for Skinner, everyone will point to that third period against Carolina and say, it was coming, it was coming, it was coming. Again, though, right, is that's fine and dandy, but it should never have taken that long. It should never have taken that. It should have never gotten there, right? This team promised us cup or bust, and they waited until halfway through, almost all the way through November, to actually get in gear and decide to win hockey games. That is what was so frustrating about watching them lose. That is what prompted the joke fold the franchise. That's what prompted everything throughout that month of November and late October, is we were promised a certain product and they failed to deliver early. We all knew, yes, what this team is. We all knew what they're capable of. We all wanted them to do certain things, and that was where we were all frustrated with it. I know some people just sat there and said, simply, I have faith. They're going to turn this around. But again, the most frustrating part is when you have to come here and answer questions every single day on the Edmonton Oilers. And myself, I don't know what's going on, right? They ended up firing a coach. They ended up really just shuffling the deck with the roster a couple times differently, and it ended up finally clicking here at last. Well, my biggest frustration was everybody had an answer, and none of them seemed like they were the right one. And the Oilers internally, thanks to Chris Knobloch and Paul Coffey, found that right answer, went on an 8-game win streak. It was a joke at the point, right? It was a joke that the Oilers would turn it around with an 8-game win streak. They got right back in the conversation, but immediately lost 3 straight. Then all of a sudden they start winning again, and winning, and winning, and winning, and winning, and now we're on a 7-game win streak, and the ultimate goal has been achieved, a playoff spot. And unfortunately, that's where it's the most ridiculous part of this all, is for the Oilers this year, the ultimate goal is just a playoff spot. Get in and do some damage. Well, that just doesn't seem quite right for a cup or bust season, but I guess, you know what, maybe you have a little bit of cup and bust in the same season, right? Bust early, cup later, I don't know. Again, that'd be all interesting, but you look at how this all formed out for the Oilers, is the biggest thing they've done here over the past little bit is reduce those goals against, right? Again, another less than or equal to two goals against game against Ottawa, and now they're down to 113 goals against on the season. They're up to 131 goals for on the year. So now you've got a separation of 18 goal differential, a plus 18 in that category. And you look here, well, yeah, Los Angeles pretty dang good. We saw that, but we blew them apart. Vegas is pretty dang good, but they're similar to us. And really, the only team really, really good at that whole goals for differential above us is, of course, the Vancouver Canucks. So, again, for them, I don't know what remains. Obviously, they seem to click and then they seem to falter for a few days and then they come right back, roaring back. So, we'll see what this race in the Pacific is going to look like. But based on math, based on games in hand, at this point, by the time we catch up to Vegas and the way the Oilers are rolling, there's a potential we close that gap. Not saying we overtake Vegas, but we could easily close that gap to about 6 or 7 points, not the current 10. And if we close that gap to 6 or 7 points, not the current 10, there is potential that Los Angeles ends up in a wild card spot because of it. But again, that's all hoopla, who knows what to say. But again, I guess maybe the life lesson here right now is look at these standings and look at where we were back November 24th and sit and realize maybe we shouldn't doubt this team at all. You know what? And that's the last goal this team has this year is there's a lot of people like myself who doubted they were going to be able to turn it around. That's fine. I'll wear it. That's okay. Life carries on. Nobody's going to get too upset about doubting a team in the regular season, but everybody will get upset about it if you're very high on a team in the playoffs and they falter out in game 4 of the first round. So that's what this team has remaining. You've achieved it. Now play consistent, keep it level, keep it going, and finish there, right? Finish in the playoff spots. And then from there, the Oilers have to turn around a lot of doubt, right? I think after a third round exit against Colorado where we got not necessarily mopped, but again, Colorado went on to win the Stanley Cup and they found us a way to beat us 4 straight. And then against Vegas where we just could not keep in the fight as long as possibly needed to win that series. Well, right now you've got a lot of questions to answer. Can this team ultimately bust through when the going gets tough and go on to win the Stanley Cup this year? Because, hey, you know what? You achieved something we all thought was impossible a few months ago. Now you got to achieve something that everybody in the NHL outside of a few cranked Oilers fans and myself think is possible, a Stanley Cup for this Edmonton Oilers franchise this season. I'm Tyson, this is Dolynny TV. Friends, thank you so much for being aboard this morning. Really do appreciate you being aboard. Again, what I will tell you is if you're still watching, please go down to the comments section. My man Gillis TV has been grinding out here the past month or so, trying to get this YouTube train going for himself. So I definitely appreciate it if you could hit that subscribe button on his channel down below. I will catch you a little later on today if there's any news. But for right now, I am up on out of here.